All right, welcome back to the Myopia Mindset. This is a podcast about motivation, inspiration, and education on your path to success with myopia management. And I have back with me Dr. Brianna Rue. She is an orthokeratologist practicing at West Broward Eye Care. She is a leader in our industry, and in addition to being a nationally recognized speaker, she's also a key principal investigator in myopia management. She's got a brand new book out called The Eye Pitch. She's co-founder and CEO of Dr. Contact Lens. Brianna Rue, welcome back to the podcast.
Thanks, Matt. I'm excited to jump into some more questions from where we ended the last time.
That's right. That's right. If you remember, we did an episode before with Brianna, and I didn't even get to half of my questions. And I was like, Brianna, why don't you come back on the show? Because in addition to everything she has going on now, I think it's really important to learn about where Brianna has come from, what her myopia mindset is, because in our industry, and we kind of touched on this last time, there is that intimidation factor. And when we are at the beginning of our journey, or if we have gotten on our journey and struggled a little bit, somebody in Brianna's position can kind of look like they had it all together from the beginning. And maybe Brianna did. She'll tell us about it. I don't know. But, you know,
Absolutely not.
I equate it to the weightlifter paradigm, Brianna. Like, if you go to the gym, you start looking out, and then there's these like gym bros who are in there, and they just like have these like Greek god style bodies, or at least the gym I go to. And you look at them and you're like, geez, like I just don't have whatever they have that help them get there. But most of them will tell you like they started at the exact same place you did, made the same mistakes you did. And the difference between you and them is they stuck with it. They learned with it. They used every failure or mistake or obstacle as an opportunity to improve and get better. And that's what we're going to do. Brianna Rue is our champion weightlifter in myopia management. And we are going to show her path and how she got there so it can help you become that champion weightlifter in myopia management. I really hope this analogy works.
I love that, because I'm actually going through a new coaching program myself, which we'll get into as well. And I'm excited to share some of that journey.
Oh, perfect. I'm glad that there's a tie-in. So before we get really started here, we're going to go over a lot of information. So Brianna, if anybody has any questions about anything we're going to discuss in this episode and they want to reach out to you about them, how can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, get in touch with me on LinkedIn. That's where it's my jam. I've curated my LinkedIn to feed me and feed my mind great things and great people. And request your copy of the Eye Pitch book there. So send me a message and we'll get you your copy. And we're in the midst right now of getting it published. So that's my gift to the industry.
Yes. Awesome. Awesome. And a little bit of housekeeping, leave your questions and comments about anything or in any episode. You can also do that in the comments section of wherever you found this. Rate and review this podcast. If you're enjoying it, it's the Matthew Martin method. Hey, if you've enjoyed this podcast, would you leave us a review? So please do so before we get going. All right. So let's get started. Let's get started at the very beginning of like, Brianna, how did you discover myopia management? And then tell us about your very first case, because I think a lot of the practitioners out there will get their feet wet in either the least ideal way. I've heard people take on like post LASIK cases or high, challenging patients with high prescriptions or whatever the case may be. What was your first myopia management patient?
Sure. So if we look all the way back, I really became an optometrist like most of us that journey. When I was in second grade, I was on a trip to South Dakota to visit my great grandma and looked out the window and said to my mom, I'm like, oh my God, Mom, look at that sheep over there. And she's like, oh, that's not a sheep, it's a cow. So either we have a really big problem or my child can't see. And my mom advocated as a dancer, cheerleader, gymnast. I was already a minus 250 when I got my first pair of glasses. And fast forward, ended up at a -6, married my husband, who's a -650 and becoming presbyopic. So if anybody wants a patient, I've got a really good one for you. And that's when I realized, I mean, I became an optometrist there. My mom, I tried RGPs because there was really old school thinking in the 80s that an RGP was going to work. I unfortunately didn't meet your dad who was doing ortho-k back then. I wasn't in Chicago, I was in Colorado. And the RGPs were just so uncomfortable. I couldn't, I was for good reason, went into soft lenses. Obviously that track of just kept getting worse and worse. And but huge advocate for contacts. My mom had to beg him to put me in contact lenses in third grade. And I still remember her like, hold open your eye. And I was like, ah. And fast forward when I was pregnant with my son, who's now 8, I randomly did a Google search. And is there any way we can slow down myopia? I met the amazing Dr. Scott Pearl, who was doing all of this and invited me to Vision by Design. Went to Vision by Design, obviously drank that Kool-Aid, came back and whiteboarded out my program that it took me an hour to do it. So I think that there's some little hurdles mentally that you just can overcome really quickly. And that's, again, it's just doing the work. There is no magic pill here, guys. It is passion and purpose and doing it day in and day out with every single patient consecutively, with being clear and concise and not bringing on mommy or daddy guilt.
Right. So when you came back and started planning it out, what did that initial outline kind of look like? What were you focused on doing? What was your primary goals when you got back to the office? What did you want to make sure? What were the boxes that needed to be checked for you to start?
Mine was what I was going to charge, right? So we had our Atropine program, our ortho-k, and I never fit an ortho-k lens. Like I learned ortho-k on a Friday at 4 p.m. and I guarantee I wasn't in that, in school. I was probably across the street at the bar with some of my other friends, but we were certified, and that was really the training. Fortunately, in schools, a lot of our colleagues are getting trained on this. And so if this isn't what you want to do and you're looking for a colleague or an associate, this is a great area to bring to your practice, to keep your practice also young. And we'll get back to that in a second on just how your practice ages with you. And kiddos is what keeps your practice young and vibrant and growing. And you don't have to see like the little baby ones, but like 3-4-year-olds, they're super easy, guys. They're not hard. So even if that's your jam, like lower the age group that you're seeing, and this will fly. And I had at that point, it was 2016. So we had a soft lens on the market that was off label, a daily that I, brought in and made some early mistakes that we'll share on how I've done it and seen better success. But it comes down to the pitch and being confident that I hear so many times that Brianna, it's just myopia. It's not a big deal. That's not up to you to decide if it's a big deal. It's up to you as the doctor to present to every patient and every parent and let them decide if it's a big deal.
Yeah. What would have happened, and maybe this did happen, I don't know, but what would have happened if when you were a child mistaking the sheep and the cow, what would have happened if your mom had been told, look, it's just myopia, it's no big deal?
I mean, I think that's what she was told because that's what they believed, right? And then my mom, actually, she was a -4. My dad's a -250. And when I was pregnant with my second baby, like talk about stories, she was in town for my baby shower, and which I happened to miss because he was 5 weeks early, this advanced maternal age pregnancy that I had. I was on my way to the hospital. It was Friday at 4:00. No joke. Like my OBGYN had just shut down. I was now like in the call and he's like, well, just go. And my mom en route to hospital, she goes, Brianna, I'm seeing flashes and floaters. And I was like, are you serious? Like right now, this is when this is going to happen. Sent her to my clinic. We, dilated her, did an opto. She had a superior retinal tear, which was lasered that day.
Wow.
And so this isn't like the -8s, the -9s, the -12s. Yes, we can prevent those, but it's also remembering it's the -3s, it's the -4s, it's the -6s. And we're good at telling them all that they might have an issue. We're all
Right.
really good at that. So let's move it earlier, move the conversation earlier. That's all this is.
Yeah. And also change the conversation so that, like you said, let's let them decide whether this is important for them. Like let's have the optometrists do their job to inform why this is important. Carrie and I did an episode where we discovered how the myopia epidemic was being talked about in the public because I accidentally found it on another podcast. Kind of reaction that you're describing is like, well, it's myopia. It's not a big deal. You even had a person on that podcast say, like, I've been in glasses my whole life. What's the big deal? And if we can change the messaging, and change how we're presenting it, I think that that's a big part of it. Maybe the best thing that we can do, Brianna, is start with the conversation. If somebody is unsure about how much myopia management they want to do, or even if it's for them, maybe the best thing to do is just to start having the conversation. Take that first step with your patients and start having the conversation. Have someone to refer to if myopia management is not your thing. And if you're trying to figure out your path towards myopia management, take a small step. Like you in our last episode had talked about, let's not take on the most intimidating, let's not try to eat the elephant whole, I think is what we had talked about.
Yeah.
So would you advise with that? Like start with just the conversation?
I think starting with the conversation, but also this is all about curiosity. So your views are allowed to change.
Great point.
Your beliefs are allowed to evolve. So if you thought at one point myopia wasn't such a big deal, you can admit to yourself that it's okay. Things have evolved. Treatments have evolved. We have FDA approved treatments now. We're sitting back on the edge of Sidnexis getting their FDA PDUFA number for like October 2025. Like that's huge.
Right.
And so exciting that we now have opportunities to take really good care of our patients and also grow our clinics in charging for these services. And that's also another thing we'll get into in the end is being okay to charge for your services, being okay to charge for expertise. That's why you charge what you charge, because you went into $250,000 worth of debt. I'm a millionaire with a minus in front of it because I bought my clinic. This is, again, the myopia mindset. You're so short-sighted on whether goals or where you want to be in 10, 15, 20 years. So by you saying, I'm going to put myopia management, I won't worry about that till next year, you're not going to get till next year. I came back from that meeting. I took an hour in the morning, got to work an hour early. That's all it took.
Yeah. What were your first goals?
I made up my mind. My first goals was some of this is before you even have the first conversation. I think you need to have some things in place because you're going to get a yes and you're not going to know what to do with the yes. And patients are coming and asking about this now. So we have become a big referral network. And I wish that we would have caught the kids earlier, right? Because now they were a -1 last year and they're a -3 this year. Right? So we have to move this down. And now with great tools like something by Ocumetra, right? It's a great tool now to show the patients and the parents where they are, where they could end up. So you have like the myopia calculator, you have the Cooper vision calculator. So even if you don't have an A scan, you still can now get it. So I just call this the myopia equation. You have 2 parts of the equation, you can get the third. We all did algebra. And now you know how aggressive you need to be. Because not every case you need to be aggressive, Matt. I'm not saying that. And I think that that's what's turning a lot of people off is when we're just saying every diopter matters. Yeah. But I also believe that you have to a 14-year-old doesn't need the same treatment as a 7-year-old. And every 7-year-old doesn't need the same treatment. So this again is looking at the patient data, being able to put it all together, not just the patient data like K ratings and axial length and refraction and ethnicity and age and parental myopia, but on the patient data. Like,
Right.
for instance, I had a kiddo who I found out he's a -7, 5-year-old that we just fit in ortho-k, and he's already 2025, so happy. And he lives at mom's and dad's. And so I went above and beyond and I said, he needs 2 sets of lenses.
Right.
Right. So it's the patient data is that, but looking at the patient data, looking at the family, that's what I mean. Does that make sense? Like,
it does.
You're looking at the patient information, like I'm making how they're sitting, how they're talking to you, the eye contact.
Right.
Are they ready for contacts at 5 or 6? This little one was ready.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So it's my job to get the mom and dad on board.
Identifying the patient profile, essentially, like, who is this kid? Are they ready for this? What kind of issues am I going to encounter? And what kind of adjustments do I need to make to this patient profile in order to do myopia management successfully with them? If they're not, what would be a great example? Like if they're having trouble with INR and they're young enough, you may even suggest to parents like, hey, why don't you help put them in the beginning with the goal of training them to a place where they can do it on their own. But you need to know and set expectations with parents as well.
And it's looking at the EQ in the room, like really raising your emotional intelligence on, again, there's no mommy guilt. There's no daddy guilt. I don't like using words like, if you don't do this, like the sky is going to fall.
Right.
Maybe they're going through an orthodontia treatment and they just came out of pocket with an insane amount right there. Right. You learn a lot when you ask better questions that are tailored to read the room. So, for instance, I had a little girl, she was 8, referred in already a -11 for contacts. And I mean, I tried, like I give it a really good try because I know if I can get one in for her, I can get the other one instantly in. Right. Would not. I mean, kicking and screaming and squeezing and the whole 9 yards. And I found out brother is 10, wears contacts. And against better judgment, I let her, against, just seeing the room and realizing they've dealt with contacts in kids for a long time, that the lens is home without her getting them in for me. I don't think a lot of doctors would do that.
Right.
And again, I gave her my cell phone number. If something happens, you call me right away, right? And we'll be right back in here. But guess who got that contact lens in? It was her brother. Her brother got her contacts in, and she came back a week later, a whole different kid.
Yeah.
So there's great opportunities here and these are easy, guys. There's an easy button. You have easy buttons here. If you're fitting a soft contact lens in a kid, a daily lens, what's holding you back from fitting a MySight lens? Right. Call your Cooper rep. Like today, call your Cooper rep. They will come in and train you and buy you lunch and educate your team. Right? Let the reps in. That's how I built my clinic, is letting reps in. That's the whole preface of the iPitch book. Right? So you have so much at your disposal right now, and we're just getting started.
Yeah, I remember this one patient where they had all sorts of sensory issues, and this was with Johnson & Johnson. This was ability overnight, and I had picked up this patient by coming into somebody else's territory when I had taken over for them. And this was my first visit to the practice. They're like, oh, we've got our fertility patient. The lenses are here. We're going to dispense. And this kid had sensory issues. They were really struggling. And I pulled the doctor aside and I was like, I don't know if this was a good patient selection process because this kid has a huge uphill battle. But, once again, mom is the superhero and she understood her child. And the doctor was like, no, this kid can do it. And I was like, okay, like, we'll see. Mom's the superhero in the situation. She
Yeah.
helped that kid. They got one in. She was guiding him through it, walking him around the office, helping him breathe, helping him get comfortable with it. He got the next one in. It took a long time. It was a success, you know, and on
Yeah.
paper, this was not an ideal patient for ortho. The mom and the trust that the doctor had in that situation for reading it. And I was like, hey, you know, I was wrong. I got this one wrong. You know,
And that happened.
I was, yeah, yeah. So would it be appropriate then if you're starting out to start setting goals of, you know, here's what I'm going to do in this situation with this patient? Like if I have a patient that comes in that's a -6 or -7, -8, I got to be prepared to do something about it. Like I'm going to be, is it appropriate to set goals in that capacity?
Yeah, I think that there it is. And if we just skew this again down, like even if you do 1 year of treatment for a 7-year-old or an 8-year-old at a -2, you realize that you've already changed the endpoint for that kid's myopia.
Mm-hmm.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
And if you look at it the way that I look at it, my atropine, right, off label right now. But don't be scared of atropine, guys. It's one drop of atropine
Mm-hmm.
with 100 drops of saline in it. And not all atropine is created equal. So I was just on a panel and I think they scared everybody in the crowd about atropine. And I was like, oh my God, this is not something to be scared of. It's one drop at night and it works. It's effective.
Right.
So I reserve my atropine for my younger kids, like 3, 4, 5, 6-year-old that I can't get into a contact lens option. Once we get glasses in the US, I think that it's going to be a really necessary for combo therapy. Glasses, I don't want to be, I think sometimes are a cop out. Yes, you're going to have those few kids that are just going to want to do glasses and you've got to
Mm-hmm.
read the room. For me, I would have hated glasses. And I'm glad that my mom advocated for me for contact lenses. And you have to be the advocate for that. But I think with glasses, when they do get here, you're going to have them on dual therapy. Because if you put a -1 or -150 in glasses, chances are they may not be wearing them very often. And now your efficacy just went down to 30%.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to have them covered with something else. Then you've got your dual focus daily contact lenses, right? Put them in, throw them out. You've got 2 options there. One is, again, is off label. One is FDA approved. Then you have a ton of ortho-k, right? So this is just topography, taking great topographies, shipping that off to the lab. They send you back a lens and you look like a hero. And now that treatment too. So when I looking at charging, right, I charge atropine a little bit less
Mm-hmm.
because they have to go source it right now. Then, and I see them back at a 4-week visit. We've actually turned this into a call, Matt, where I just want to make sure they got their drops. That is it. I'm not looking at anything. Really, I'm like doing a quick ret and like the show and pony, whatever, pony show.
Mm-hmm.
Is that how you say that? But then you just to make sure they got the drops.
Right.
And then we start 3, 6, 9 yearly. And then I go to every 6 months after that. I'm even kind of pushing that out to every 4 months now. We don't need all these visits. I think it's really overdoing it a little bit. Then for my site, ortho-k, natural view, whatever it is, we see them back at 1 week, make sure that they're happy as a clam. Again, there's another call to make sure that they're doing it at week 4. And then again, we're assessing treatment. But I've been doing this now and we have hundreds of kids in treatment. It freaking works, man. Like, it's exciting to put them in this calculator that we now have access to, and it shows 100% control.
Mm-hmm.
And you know that they're involved in their own treatment. And it's giving the kids, like right now, and having 2 kids, they have these learned behaviors, like where kids can't even tie their shoes anymore because you can't even buy shoes that tie. So it's this learned laziness that's happening. Look at your kids, they're not driving. 16, 17, 18-year-olds are not driving. They're terrified. So that's where outdoor time, tablet time, in the car, no devices. I recommend the Anxious Generation book to all my parents. I have it on a card. I have my top 10 takeaways. All this stuff you can build in Canva, super easy.
Right.
So I think it's where people have these massive hurdles or this massive thing that they're seeing they have to invest in. You've done it in dry eye. It's the same conversation. I'm having the same conversation now with my dry eye patients for the IPL RF machine.
Yeah.
So it's about servicing the community together.
Gotcha. What do we do? Like, once you've started to get some cases, once you started to see some success, what are some things that you might have done differently if you had the ability to go change them? And maybe we could, communicate that to the audience. After you
I was
really
trying to make it so complex. I was like, I'm going to charge this for this case and this for this case and this for oh my God. It's like, I've learned this from Aaron Werner. We're going to start implementing this because I just heard a horrible conversation my friend Dust the other day, where he charges the same for a multifocal fit, a toric contact lens fit, and a spherical fit. He raised the price for some of them, lowered the price for the others. Now when patients call, hey, how much is a contact lens fit? Bam. Right? So what we do, again, is Atropine is just a little bit less. If they decide ortho-k or a soft lens, it's the same price. So what a student, actually a recent grad, came up to me after SECO and said, I'm having a really hard time charging patients. I mean, we're not taught that in school.
Right.
We're taught to give everything away for free. But I brought up the story of, a guy, like there's a boat and it's broken and they call 4 other people to try to fix it. Like, call this other guy. He knows what to do. He comes out, looks around for 2 hours, takes his hammer out, hits one thing, the whole boat's fixed. And then he sends the invoice for 50 grand. And like, $50,000, you were there for 2 hours and you did one thing. Why is it $50,000? And he goes, $10 for the hammer and $49,990 to know where to hit the hammer. So you're not charging for the piece of plastic. You're not charging for the lens in the glasses. You're not charging for the drop. You're charging because you went to school and you have an expertise that the parents are seeking you out for.
Yeah, you're charging for a practice that is devoted to this problem, and you as the specialist are giving this problem everything that you have. Like, you aren't just getting the treatment, you're getting Brianna Rue. And Brianna Rue is the best eye care provider for your child. That is what she is. That is what is walking into the room with her. That is what you're getting when you walk into her practice. You are not just getting a piece of plastic or some drops. You are getting Brianna Rue as your provider. We don't like the word provider, right?
Yeah, we did talk about that, didn't we?
You're getting her as the doctor, the specialist who is taking care of your patient. What is the secret ingredient that is Brianna Rue in your practice?
Honestly, it's having fun and being curious. It was really cute. I wear sponge tennis shoes to dress up my scrubs. I invested in expensive tennis shoes. And I had a little girl come back and her mom was so excited to see me because she had her tennis shoes on. And that day, for some reason, I had another pair on, it was like it didn't exactly match, but it would have been a really cool picture. It was a really cool picture in my mind. But she was so excited to show me her cool tennies. So it's connecting with them on a different level. And I've always loved kids. My sister is a first grade teacher, so she has patients and I see patients is the joke in her family. And I can't deal with all of those kiddos. Like, I can deal with her classroom for about 40 minutes. And then I'm like, well, what do you do here? But I do like that one-on-one or the, 2 or 3 of them. And it's getting their confidence. I was just given that as a kid. My mom gave me that as a kid. And it's shoulders back. And my staff always my team always jokes, they're like, here's Dr. Rhue's myopia cape, like as I'm going into like the room to like, oh, you've got a myope. And I've got it really concise. And so I just heard a quote by Gary Gerber, and he goes, optometrists can unsell anything.
It is so true.
So being clear and concise and getting that into 2 minutes and asking for the yes, like don't leave that up to chance, because they're super confused, and confused people don't buy. So the same thing with why people don't buy annual supplies of contacts and why we create a doctor contact lens, right? You've just spit all this jargon at them. Same thing for when we go to these conferences, Matt. Like I was up on a stage with two of the, who I was up on stage with. And I'm like, you guys are like a 10-point buck. I'm in the middle, right? And then we have all these newbies, all these new fitters, which are all these little baby deer learning how to walk. And so don't look at this as jargon. Once you learn the language, and it's very easy to learn it, I think that's one of the biggest hurdles. So confidence and curiosity and asking questions and not being scared to look like a dumbass. Because we all were there.
All right, well, that's it for this regular version of the episode, but the discussion doesn't stop here. It actually continues in an extended version of this episode, which is available to our Substack supporters. You can, if you're interested in getting the rest of the episode, consider becoming a paid supporter of the Myopia Mindset. In addition to an extended version of this episode and every other episode that we do, you'll also get access to exclusive monthly bonus episodes of the Myopia Mindset. And I know you're interested. You've made it this far. And for the cost is $12 a month, which is basically the cost of a cup of coffee each and every week. And that's how I like to put it. Listen, if you would buy me a cup of coffee each and every week to nerd out about myopia, to bring on amazing guests, to spread the word about how awesome myopia management is and how more ECPs should be engaged in this specialty, then please consider becoming a paid supporter of the Myopia Mindset. You can do so on our Substack. myopiamindset.substack.com is how you do that. Thank you so much for your consideration. I'll see you at the next one.